Welcome to today's Daily Awesome. It is on the day we're recording this. It is, I got to look, it's April 12th, 2017. We're on a Men's Development Excellence call. That's our membership. And if you want to get more involved with what we're doing, you can find out more at Austin Men's Development. You can find out about our free boards, find out about our memberships. But probably more importantly, if you follow the link down below for this specific podcast, it's probably a bit.ly link that says AMD Awesome and then a number. You want to follow that because you can find everything. One, get involved with our free group, our Austin Men's Development Board, but it is also a free board. So it comes along with free board issues. Like there's people, that may not be fully invested. So you can also find out about our different membership programs, which are just great, man. This is a live call. There's 22 people on this call at 10:22 p.m. So it's pretty cool, from all around the world, but mainly in the US. And then also, you can download our free PDF. In the month of April, we are giving away The Way of the Sexual Man, which is a 5-part, just very quick PDF. It'll take you like 15 minutes to read, but it's 5 things that'll really help you out, to get to know yourself so you could put yourself out there in the world and attain excellence. That's all we're trying to do here. That's the main point of this podcast, of how my experience and our experience that we're doing with the 22 other guys here, and really groups of, like 70 some odd, active members, what we do to live better. And we all do it in different ways. That's the cool fucking thing about it. This one, what we're talking about is going hard. Going hard. How this came about was there's a new guy on our calls. And one of the guys who has been around for about 9 months said, man, if there's the one thing I could tell you, just when you go hard. Now, of course, we all want to know what that means, but this is one of those things that is so imperative in coaching that splits right down the middle of guys that take on this mentality and guys that don't take on this mentality are literally the exact template of who succeeds and who doesn't. Who gets success, who finds the life that they're happy with, and whatever it is. This could be dating, this could be business, this could be their body, whatever it is they're focusing on. But who finds that success, and then who has invested in yet another thing that doesn't work for them. And I'll tell you this, man, you come to any of my stuff, if you work and you engage in it, you'll get results. Man, you'll get results that you write in your own life. You'll be responsible for them and you'll be happy with it. That's what happens. It's super cool. And we all have our own story. I can't tell you that you're going to be this specific type of guy or thing, but man, it's just an awesome deal. But it's literally who works at it and who doesn't. So we come into some level of coaching, and we all go, you know what? I'm going to bust ass. I'm going to kick ass. We've all made that decision, many, many times. And then some people have not done things. Some people have excelled in a great way. And so when I say things like go hard or do it, when it comes into things like self-improvement, self-development, things that matter to you, or what I call the born to be qualities, which would be like your expression, your ability to socialize, your body, your health, how you express your body in terms of fitness, your sexual life, your dating life. These are all things that you were born to do and made to do, and they're not confined by man-made constructs. It goes into a deeper philosophy of all that stuff. But man, Jesus, these are much different than the, paths of what you would see as business or career, or how you move up the social hierarchy and so on. These are things that give you your worth. These are things that, independent of any culture or society or class that you can access, that you're born to be qualities. You can always be healthy. You can always be social. You can always be sexual, right? And so that all being said, when you work with a coach, when you commit to something, do it. Do it hard, do it fully, do it with all of you. Do not pull back from it. One of the things that I can almost pinpoint and say that will be like, hey man, I'm going to see you here 5 years down the road after you've spent 20 grand working with a ton of different coaches in the same fucking place, is if you start questioning, and not questioning me on authority or whatever. And of course, as a coach, you want everybody to listen to, but questioning for the sake of your own fears, for the sake of your own story and road that got you where you're at, which is not where you want to be. And if you want to be somewhere, you fucking do it, man. There is no time ever. And I've had a lot of different teachers, where if I actually want to learn from somebody, and I'm careful about who I learn from. If I don't want to learn from you, I don't want to learn from you. If you're somebody who's, selling a self-help thing or whatever, I usually don't want to do anything from you. But the people that I have hired and I have worked with, man, I fucking listen. And I listen well and I do exactly what they say. And I don't question it. And I only question if I don't understand it. And if I don't understand it and they can't explain it to me, I do it anyway. And man, in all the things that I am the best at, I have always done that. In all of the times where I've done it and fully like gone for it, even if I don't fully understand it, but in the faith of somebody telling me, because I don't know the answer and it doesn't work out, I don't give a shit. I accept it as my own responsibility and I keep going. I assume the problem is mine. Now, that being said, I'm not saying for you to worship anybody. I'm not saying for you to falsely worship a coach or an idol or whatever, but a few things to put in perspective. I remember before I had my relationship with Maria, I was doing an inventory on myself, and my friend Dave, who I trust a lot, who I've chosen, who I've worked with time and time again and has given me amazing life advice, he told me some advice. And he said, you know what? And what I told him was, I was just so fed up, man. I was just so fed up. I had gotten out of this relationship a couple months prior. I was kind of frustrated. I was dating around a lot. Back then, they didn't have Tinder or those types of things, but they had OkCupid, they had Match. I was just having sex with all these girls. All these girls were like, they're pretty cool. They were attractive. They were professional. They had stuff, but they were on there for a reason, which still seems to be the same with online. They were on there for a reason. They were on there, because something really wasn't working out for them in their real life that allowed them not to meet people or have relationships where they got screwed over. And it was just, I saw this pattern. It sucked, man. And it sucked. And then finally I meet this girl and I didn't want to have a relationship. I had just gotten out of a 5-year relationship and I meet her and she sweeps me off my feet. People always ask about monogamy and they're like, oh, well, how could I be monogamous when I know there's so many options of women out there? Man, anytime I've committed to a woman, that wasn't really the thing. It was that I met a woman that made me stop thinking about that. That's what you got, where you got to get. And things weren't going with this woman. I remember I was going over this, and at the time I was doing a personal inventory on myself and looking at my defects and so on. I was going over it with Dave. And Dave doesn't have as much experience with sex and relationships with me. And I was going through it and I said, man, I keep going through this thing and I'm fucking sick of it. And now, I can't get this thing to work out with this girl. And it was finally like, right when I open up again, fuck this. I just want to go fuck other chicks because I know I can and it'll make me feel good and all this sort of stuff. And he goes, you know what, Steve? He goes, look, you just went over what your ideals were about who you want to be. And if you're not willing to fail, if you're not willing to fuck up, if you're not willing to get embarrassed, if you're not willing to be afraid for those ideals of what you want to do and the person that you want to be, just because you gave it your all and somebody didn't pay attention to you, then you don't deserve to have those ideals. So you better fucking do it. So specifically, here's my advice. My advice is to try and continue to talk to that girl and like see if you can make it work out, right? And to show yourself in these ways. Well, it's kind of conflicting because I'm a dating coach. I know that's probably not the best thing to do. But at the time in my life when I'm listening to somebody and I don't know, I do what he says. Guess what? It's the wrong advice. I don't blame Dave. I don't blame the advice. I don't blame whatever. I knew going into it was probably the wrong thing. But man, I know how to wear a white belt. I know how to submit. I know how to take advice. And when I'm going for something, I fucking go for it. And guess what that got me? That got me some fortitude. That got me some responsibility. That got me acceptance of self rather than sitting there and blaming all the people around me for my life not going the ways that I need to go. And man, I can't tell you how important that is. Man, same thing. And the same thing will happen in jiu-jitsu. Let's say I do something. I don't know how to do the move. I ask the instructor. He's like, look, you just got to go. Or this will happen all the time. This happens all the time at Paragon Austin. Shout out. So I'll be rolling. It's a very hard gym. And I'll be getting lazy, man. I want to be lazy. I'll sit in somebody's guard because I know they'll get frustrated and I can defend and piss them off and put some pressure on them. And then they'll let that guard go. Nope. Coach is yelling at me, Steve, fucking pass that guard. Remember the time where you got triangled and choked out? You want to do that and sit there with a guy who's better than you? You can't do that. Fucking pass it. I don't know what to do. Or in this situation, I can't do it. Man, but I try. And I try and I try. And guess what? Sometimes I try and I get myself in a position where I do get triangled or armbarred or I get submitted and it works out against me. But guess what? I went for it. I went from a position where I wasn't sure and I had trust and faith in somebody else that I do have trust and faith in. I don't stupidly choose these things, and I go for it. It's not a power trip. You know, Robert or Coach Jose or whoever, these guys, they're not telling me to do this to embarrass me. They're telling me to do this to better myself, even when I don't know. That's fucking fundamentally important. Fundamentally important. So when you're going to commit to something that you want to do and you found somebody that you're going to work with, no, man, do what they say. I'm not saying that for a power trip. You know, one of the things that I always tell people this in recovery. It's like, because a little bit of a different story there, you know, that's not a money-oriented thing, but if I'm sponsoring somebody or whatever, I say, man, you know, like, I'll never give you direct advice. I'll give you suggestions. But the thing is like, man, you know, anybody who's insane enough to listen to my advice, you know, you might not want to take it, you know? So I want people to decide for themselves in that sort of realm, especially because if you tell a drug addict what to do, they do the opposite. But man, if you hire me, this is not a power trip. If you work with me, just fucking do what I say. I've been doing this a long time, nonstop. I mean, I coach probably like 25 hours a week, you know, of actually working with people, let alone all the other business stuff that I do. I am always doing it. I've done that every week easily for the past 11 years. I'm always working with people. And the thing about that is that you got to kind of trust it and just do it. It's not a power trip. It's not something where I want you to submit. It's not something where you need to be humble to your teacher or your master or whatever bullshit like that. It's just the simple fact that the whole recipe to your improvement is a lot more complex than what you can see. And it's probably a lot more simple too. And if you just follow this road and just do what we're doing right now like you mean it, you're going to eventually connect the dots which might be conflicting in your mind at the moment. Just like how I was. It was like Dave gave me this advice. Guess what I got from that? I realized that his advice might be flawed in telling me to continue to pursue this girl that was kind of like putting me on ice. And it didn't work. But the dots were that I had ideals and that I had to learn to live for them. And that I couldn't just fail or be embarrassed or, you know, run into some resistance where I might build some distrust and follow that, because that makes me react. And that actually does for me a result that might work of fucking more chicks, but doesn't get me to grow in the right way. That just would get me out of pain and not learn for me to respect and honor my ideals that I was mapping out and not used to living. So that's a pretty valuable lesson. Sure, I didn't win the prize that time or whatever, but I learned something that could help me for the rest of my life and stick with me in a great way. And so, man, you know, when I listen to somebody, I listen. I'm careful about who I choose. But if you're going to work on something in your life, fucking work it. Don't listen to the tape in your brain, because it got you where you are now. That also doesn't mean that you're fucked up for the rest of your life. That doesn't mean that you're crazy. That doesn't mean that you should never listen to it. But if you're talking to somebody who has more experience than you have to trust that they'll teach you how to use what you got better than how you're using it now. All right? So, little tip there. If you like all this stuff, definitely subscribe to our podcast. Daily Awesome is a podcast that's on the Austin Men's Development Board. Right now, for the month of April, we're pairing it up with the TSL podcast, but go ahead and subscribe to the Daily Awesome, because we do a minimum of 4 podcasts a week. They're short, sweet, to the point, and they come from our calls, and they're directly applicable to what we're coaching. And of course, if you follow the link down below, you get the Way of the Sexual Man, find out about our free boards and our paid boards and everything that we do. And if you have any questions, just email me, Steve@thesexuallife. I'm out. You have a good day.